appreciate you being here. I was in the audience at an ACOG when Lou Weinstein gave the first lecture I know about OB Hospitalist. And I had sort of been thinking about the concept before that, but listening to him talk and realizing that it's a real possibility just made me very excited. So I went home and I sold my solo practice that I'd had in Bellingham, Washington. I'd been in practice for 27 years. After that lecture, I went home, sold that practice, and I was almost immediately recruited to be a full-time OB hospitalist in a tertiary care center in Spokane, Washington. I didn't want to move from my home in Bellingham over to Spokane, so I commuted over there, and it's one of the nice things about being a hospitalist is you can commute to work. And after about a year and a half there, my community hospital in Bellingham started a program. So I began to work half-time in the community hospital and continue to do half-time in the tertiary hospital. And I've not regretted it at all. I really enjoyed it. And those of you who are doing it know what I'm talking about, and those of you who are thinking about doing it, I just highly recommend it. Part of the reason that it's so good is that it makes labor and delivery safer for women. So the kind of work you do makes it safer for women in labor. And you know, that's what our profession is. That's what we're doing. The disclosures I have is, one, I run a website that accepts advertising, and two, in Bellingham, my hospital is now contracted with the OB Hospital Group, Chris Swain's group. So even though I'm an independent contractor, I'm in a way working for his group part-time. We have a lot to do today. If you've looked at the agenda, an organizational meeting, we could do an all-day meeting and take care of this, and we really only have an hour and a half. So I'm going to try to push through things. Unfortunately, I'm going to make speakers cut off, and I'm trying not to be rude about it. I'm really going to encourage audience participation, but we might have to cut discussion off. Part of what I'm interested in is networking and increasing communication among all of us. And I'm not really particularly interested in being the leader of this. I want you to be the leader. I want you guys to help push this discussion and take this forward. One of the things I want to do today is to have specific tasks for us that we choose as being the most important things to do. And then in the future, in the weeks and days and months to come, we're going to have some way of communicating with each other and coming up with some of these solutions to some of these problems that are sort of difficult. One of the things I'd like to do is perhaps after this is over at 6 o'clock, obviously I'm going to stay here and talk to anybody that wants to, but I also think it might be sort of fun for us all to go retire to a bar afterwards and just have a few drinks and maybe tell some war stories, and all of us that have been doing it probably have some good stories to tell. And I scoped out at the Marriott Hotel, the headquarter hotel, on the 39th floor is a bar called the View Bar. So when I'm finished here, I'm going to go over there, and I'd certainly invite all of you that can come over there and have a drink with me and talk to me. I'm going to start off with trying to get an overview, the sort of national view of what's going on. And so I've invited some of the bigger players to talk about just a 3-minute presentation about their hospital programs and how many hospitals they're at. And we're going to start with Jennifer Kasirsky, who's going to talk about Delphi.
Am I being heard? Well, I want to echo what Rob said. I love being an OB hospitalist. This is the best job I have ever had, and I can't imagine doing any other job. I spent the first 10 years of practice in academics, and I spent the last 5 years as an OB hospitalist, and this is by far and away the best thing that I've ever done. And I don't know who out there is working as a hospitalist or who is just interested, but I'm happy to talk to anyone about being a hospitalist because I feel like I am the poster child for the happy OB, and part of that has to do with the job that I do. When I first looked into being a hospitalist, I approached ACOG and said, hey, what's this hospitalist deal? And I talked to a bunch of folks and they said, yeah, we've heard about hospitalists, but we don't really know anything about it, or we don't really have an opinion about it. And my understanding from some of the staffers that I've spoken to at this conference is that ACOG is coming out with a committee opinion about hospitalists, and I think that I'll be interested to hear. But this past year, I think in November, one of the staffers had approached me and said, you know, the way for hospitalists to get noticed is to start a special interest group, and that's how I kind of hooked up with Rob, and we kind of put this together. And I know you don't want to plug your own website, but I will plug it for you. It's obhospitalist.com. It's a great resource, and it's a nice way, I think, for all of us to kind of get together and see what's going on out there. And I hope this meeting will be a starting point for us as a group of hospitalists. And this is an independent meeting. It's not meant to be a commercial for any one company, but there are companies out there that have a lot of programs and have a lot of expertise in putting together hospitalist groups. And I think that's why one of the reasons Rob wanted to hear from those groups. So with that said, I work with Delphi Healthcare Partners. I began with them in 2005 at a hospital in Manassas, Virginia. I work as a medical director there. I also work as their regional medical director on the East Coast, and I work full-time as an OB/GYN hospitalist. At Delphi, that means about 8 shifts a month. 8 24-hour shifts a month is considered full-time. You know, Delphi has the expertise in the business side of the hospitalist program, putting together programs and then running them. And that really allows the docs to just do what we're good at, which is being physicians. Since 2001, Delphi has designed and implemented hospitalist programs not only in OB, but in orthopedics, general surgery, and critical care. They have 60 programs, 15 of which are OB programs across the country. Their first OB hospitalist program began in 2003 here in California, and they have been going strong. They have about 60 OBs that work full-time, and the Delphi model is one in which it's a full-time group of physicians. They usually have between 4 and 6 physicians working full-time at each site. The goal is for those physicians to only work at that site where they become an integrated part of the hospital. Delphi does not send their docs to various different hospitals to staff different hospitals. You know, at my hospital, we work together as a group. We feel like, you know, this is our practice, and it seems to work really well for us. Delphi also staffs full-time clinics. Usually those clinics are in underserved populations.